Some reflective thoughts on that second reading from the letter to the Hebrews on this, the fifth Sunday of Lent, often called Passion Sunday, as we draw much closer to the events of Holy Week, Good Friday, and then Easter Day. Learned obedience through what he suffered, from verse 8. To me, these words ring very real and true as I think back over these past months and my recovery from the emergency spinal surgery last July. The operation itself was successful, even though along the way since, I've had some serious setbacks that included excruciating pain if I moved around at all. These put me back into hospital twice for a period that totaled some 9 weeks, with more investigations followed by rehabilitation. I'm now well on to further improvement, although I still need to use a disabled person's aids and require the help of carers. Physical suffering then. Mental suffering too, as I now have to learn to accept the help of others for tasks that I used to do easily myself. Obedience through suffering. In looking at this letter to the Hebrews, what about something of its background? For a start, the author of the letter is not named. Hence, there is some confusion as to whether St. Paul had any connection with it. Some say that part of its writing is similar to what Paul might have written. However, the latest evidence from the biblical scholars concludes that the author is anonymous. Similarly, its dating is equally problematic, with the letter thought to be composed during the second half of the 1st century AD. In today's extract from the letter, then, the writer reflects and concentrates on the person and the work of Jesus Christ and his status as the true and eternal high priest. You are a high priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek, we heard in verse 6. The writer compares Jesus Christ with the ordinary earthly high priest, noting points of similarity, but then hinting at the superiority of the heavenly high priest. Priests in Scripture were responsible for making various offerings, including the daily sacrifice in the temple. So as such, they were intermediaries, linking the relationship of their followers with their relationship to God. Here, the writer to the Hebrews characterizes these as being to do with sin, but concentrates on the sacrifice unique to the high priest, the offering of sin on the Day of Atonement, the once-a-year Jewish sacrifice. Having been made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him, having been designated by God a high priest, according to the order of Melchizedek, we heard in verse 9. Here then, the order of Melchizedek may relate to the old Canaanite custom and tradition for appointing priests followed in Jerusalem. As I said earlier, the writer is comparing Jesus Christ with the earthly high priest, but noting the superiority of the heavenly high priest, designated by God. Thus, the underlying message from this passage we heard today is that Jesus Christ can be and is the source of aid and comfort and the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him. This I found as an inspiration as I've journeyed through this Lent season. Rather than giving up things, maybe for example, chocolate, I've used the time for further worship, study, and training. All of you then, be encouraged too, as we travel these last 2 weeks towards Holy Week and Easter. Amen.